And welcome back to the Pain and Panic podcast here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Adam Sheets, joined by Chris Reynolds today for an NFL preseason reactions and getting us ready as we have actual football games getting ready to start this week as the Cowboys and Eagles will kick off the 2025 NFL season. Chris, it has been a wild preseason. We've had a lot of crazy storylines throughout. We've had, luckily, a very healthy preseason. Only Rashawn Slater from the Chargers is like the real big season-ending injury. I think everyone else has stayed relatively healthy as coaches can ask for. But how are you doing as we are officially in game week for week 1 of the NFL season?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. Almost all my fantasy drafts are done. The season's about to start. And now it's just that point where just every day you're like, one day closer. We're almost there. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting, and we're recording this on Friday, August 29th, so that means yesterday, the biggest bombshell everyone's kind of been waiting for dropped in the NFL as Micah Parsons is no longer a member of the Dallas Cowboys. He was traded to the Green Bay Packers and signed a 4-year, $188 million contract, $136 million guaranteed for Micah, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The Cowboys got back 30-year-old defensive tackle Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks, one in 2026 and one in 2027. So, Chris, this has been the storyline that's kind of hovered over all of preseason. Micah was holding out. He had the official trade request that he went and sat down on Stephen Jones' desk for him to actually read, delivered it personally, which I thought was awesome. It's been a wild turn of events. We've had Jerry talking smack in interviews. Micah's been really, really quiet outside of doing the classic, just deleting everything off your social media. So I think at the end of this, I think we all kind of figured it was either going to be Jerry's going to sign him for a crazy number right before the season starts, or he was going to get traded. And this is only the second time in the history of Jerry Jones being the general manager that the Cowboys have traded a Pro Bowler after the year after he made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's probably the first real standoff like this that Jerry Jones has lost in recent history. With Zeke, with Dak, with CD, he ended up giving in, but you give the guys the money, but they stay on your team. This time, Jerry actually loses the player, which I think is a bigger loss than just paying them the money. And Micah Parsons, we talked about it a few weeks ago, and it seemed like this one, I always think the Cowboys kind of do this on purpose, but it kind of went personal, and it seemed a little bit more of an actual anger towards each side, which is different from the ones in the past. And for the Packers, they're very happy just to take him in. Hey, Micah, you're not appreciated over there. Come to us. We'll trade for you. We'll give you all this money. And he was more than happy. And now Micah Parsons goes somewhere cold, which I think would be unfortunate for him. But besides the weather, Green Bay has a very fun fan base. They'll love him. And he goes to a really good division, and I think he's going to have some fun there, just not having to play. I mean, I guess it must be fun to play the Giants all the time if you're on defense. But, just mix it up. And Micah Parsons, great player, and Jerry Jones takes the L.
Yeah, I think the biggest loser is guys like Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy. These young quarterbacks now this guy's here. We've already had to deal, Aiden Hutchinson's coming back for the Lions, but now we have to deal with this guy too, and Rashawn Gary on the other side. This is just crazy for the Cowboys to, I'm now, if they would have signed him to what the Packers signed him for, I would have said Jerry got worked by the fact that he could have done this months ago and it would have been a lot cheaper, but he waited and then had to spend the money anyway. But at the same time, it's like, it should have never got to this point. The fact that it got to this point is absolutely horrible. It's organizational malpractice. It's just, the Cowboys have no idea what they're doing, and now it's kind of like they're going to rebuild and reload, and they're like, we're going to get these picks and try to turn this into a winning team, but it's like you have a quarterback who's over the age of 30, who you're paying a lot of money. You just paid CD, top of the dollar wide receiver money. It's like, where are you going to build? These draft picks aren't going to be high, figuring what the Packers, they haven't drafted in the top 10 since 2009. These picks are going to be in the 20s probably, maybe even the 30s if they make a huge run to a Super Bowl or something like that. So it makes no sense whatsoever what they're doing. If you were going to trade him, you want to trade him before the draft, so then you could maybe draft a player in his place, or maybe you get more. There's more suitors during free agency because more teams have money. But it's wild that it came to this. I thought the haul was absolutely embarrassing. Anyone saying this is equivalent to the Herschel Walker trade, they got 9 draft picks in the Herschel Walker trade. They got 2 draft picks and a 30-year-old defensive tackle. So I don't think, you're being like, man, what a win. And I saw some people go, Now, who won the Micah Parsons trade? And someone said, well, they're not calling it the Kenny Clark trade now, are they? So, yeah, it's just this whole situation has been escalating to this point. I'm happy for Micah, as a former Nittany Lion, now being the highest paid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL. Great for recruiting. So, big for Penn State and recruiting. All those edge rushers, you want to be the highest paid non-quarterback, come to old Penn State. That would be nice. But yeah, this whole situation has been completely messed up, and I'm happy for Micah to get out of there, and we can all circle our calendars on what was already the best sports weekend of the year. Was the weekend of September 26th through the 28th, and that'll now culminate in September 28th, Sunday Night Football, Packers at Cowboys, which is going to be awesome.
That's going to be a lot of fun, but I got to give credit to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, until the very end, tries pretending like he's the winner of this all. He goes, we needed to get a better run defense, and that's why they did this trade. Kenny Clark, who is probably his best days are behind him, former Pro Bowler, but not currently at that level, and he's still acting like he's an equivalent level of Micah Parsons, but he just does more of run stopping, which is not really true. He is not the same level at all, but I love that he will, to the very end, go out as if he's on top, and it's really hard to do, but I think he's one of the most overconfident owners at this point, relying on his success way back when, and now it's 2025. He's still there, and the team hasn't really had a lot of success. Mike has been one of their best draft picks. Him and Dak are really their only two guys you look at in the main positions. You're like, wow, Dak was at great value, and Micah fell a little bit. They took him, and he's been phenomenal, and now they lose him because he messed up the whole negotiation, and still, he acts like he did this because he wants a better run defense, acting like it's part of their way to get an improved team, which obviously is false, but credit to him. It's hard to do. I don't know if he actually believes it or if he's just trying to twist it in his head a certain way, but it's always fun in Dallas. Now, if Dallas is bad, and I think they probably will be, I just wonder how Jerry Jones is going to defend the team then, but we'll see because he always finds a way.
Yeah, and, obviously about this, every NFL GM in the entire NFL is getting fired if they make this trade and mess it up this bad. It helps when you're the owner. You can't fire yourself, so that's always a good thing for Jerry Jones. But it's just, and then also looking at it is the timing of this is even funnier because on August 19th, the Netflix dropped the America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, the whole docu-series on the Cowboys in the 90s. And it's funny because the Cowboys haven't been to an NFC championship or a Super Bowl in 30 years. Well, Kenny Clark was born then, so maybe, his parents could tell him, man, we were in the hospital, we were pregnant with you, and the Cowboys were good. It's been a long time, though, Kenny. So there's that part. And then there's also the part where everyone points out when the Cowboys won their first Super Bowl in 1992, they traded for Charles Haley from the San Francisco 49ers. And Jerry Rice is sitting there, and Jerry Rice is saying, the biggest mistake we ever made as the San Francisco 49ers was trading Charles Haley to the Dallas Cowboys because it put them over the top and we lost our best edge rusher because the Niners didn't pay him. And now you're like, it's literally the flip now that there's a chance that the Cowboys now traded away a star edge rusher that might put the Packers somehow over the top. Packers also the last team that beat the Cowboys in the playoffs because they didn't make it last year and the year before. Jordan Love and the boys went in there and waxed them in Jerry's world. So it's all wild. Credit to Jerry, as you said. He's always going to find a way to spin it. I don't know why getting a run stopper was, you had to get rid of Micah to get a run stopper. You couldn't have Micah and get a run stopper at the same time. Don't know why those had to be, separate from each other. It's just, this whole situation is mind-blowing that the Cowboys let it get to this point. And now they're going to have to be, with just looking at their defense, they're going to have to be the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to have to score a bunch of points and they're going to give up a bunch of points because the defense isn't good. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens are Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a discount version of the Bengals. I think Jamar Chase is slightly better than CeeDee Lamb. I think George Pickens is kind of an off-brand T. Higgins anyways, and Dak is probably a less good version of Joe Burrow. So good comparison there, and defensively they're probably similar defenses, especially now that Mike is gone. So they're probably not going to win a lot of games. And even now looking at the NFC East, the Giants might have more hope. At least with them, you have a rookie QB and some older veterans. You have Malik Neighbors who's young, and you have a really good defensive line that can just change games. I think the Cowboys might be the worst team in this division now. Not that Micah, I mean, you can do a lot as an edge rusher, but it's not like a quarterback, for example. But losing him, who's really the focal point of your defense, leaves a lot now to be desired on that end. And for the Packers, as you mentioned, this could be what puts them over the top. They've kind of been lacking something, and I think this is a big energy guy that can tilt the game, especially the defensive end for them. They lost Year Alexander, who was a corner, but I think you'd rather have Micah Parsons than that. And you said 2 first-round picks. That's a lot in a lot of cases, but for Micah, it's not that much, especially when your team is always good. So
Mhm.
I think the Packers made the right decision, and I think I'm going to change my pick. I think I had the Bears making it as a wild card team in here. Kick out the Bears, put in the Packers, and I think now you're going to have the Lions and Packers are going to have a real race for the division, and I think the one that doesn't get the division will end up making it as a wild card.
Yeah, I want to change my pick as well. I think the Packers are absolutely going to be in the playoffs. I did not have them in the playoffs. Now I would. And it's one of those things where they're now a team with, Jordan Love, if he'll be in his third playoff run, my pardon. So, he's getting that playoff experience. You have Josh Jacobs at running back who can run the football. You drafted the new receiver that you hope's going to be able to work for you. You have a lot of good number twos out there. You didn't have to give up any. There is an interesting thing no one's talking about is Jaden Reed wears number 11. So is he going to give it to Micah, or is Micah going to have to go into that bag early to pay for it? There's just so many things that team looked really good. I mean, Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons, probably the best 2 edge rusher combination in the NFC right now. Because I think you look at like Philadelphia has a really good one, but most of their guys are interior. Like Jalen Carter's a defensive tackle, plays on the inside more than on the outside, and they just got rid of Josh Sweat. But it's just, they're going to be really good. It's a lot of pressure on Jordan Love, who, his life's completely flipped. It's kind of like, I need to play well. Like, this may be a prove-it year. To now, it's like, man, we have people talking about a Super Bowl in Lambeau. We got to deliver, and it's all on him right now because everyone's going to say the defense is going to be there. But it's going to be interesting, and, it's a lot of money. I think everyone's going to say that. It's a lot of money. They're paying Jordan Love. They're paying him. Rashawn Gary makes a lot of money. So they're spending a lot of money right now, and it really puts it, you have this 3-year window now. You got to find a way to win the Super Bowl if you're the Packers in these next 3 years. And they last year, they were the youngest team to ever make the playoffs. So they are young who can develop into that team that can eventually win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the timing, too, is pretty good. As you said, the Lions are kind of on a decline from what they were even last season. And the Bears and the Vikings still have young QBs who still need to figure it out. Jordan Love's a little bit older. And as you said, it's his 3rd real season now that he'll probably make the playoffs. So they're kind of more in that peak time to win where they're on the come up a little bit more. Lions down, Bears and Vikings don't think are ready yet. And I'm very curious, what does Micah Parsons get Jaden Reed for the number? Right behind me, Juan Soto, number 22. Do you know who wore that number? Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty got a car because Juan Soto wanted that number. Brett Beatty gave it to him. So I'm very interested in what Micah Parsons gifts his teammate if he gets the number 11.
Well, he's living in Green Bay now, so I think a fair compensation would say, Micah, you got to shovel my driveway every time it snows. I think Micah might say, I'll pick a new number if that's the case. I'm good.
Maybe buy him a bobsled or something like that. That might work too. Snowmobile.
Hey, buy him be his own personal driver. They got to drive to the games together. It'd be interesting to see. And again, they got to hurry up because the season starts next week, and I mean, there's a chance Micah doesn't play probably not going to play every snap in week 1. I couldn't imagine he hasn't practiced. He did keep saying he had back soreness. A lot of people like, is that actually true, or is it maybe just a negotiating tactic to be able to sit out of practice? So we'll see there, but it's going to be interesting to see once he gets up to Green Bay, starts to practice with that team. They got a huge one. Talk about CBS picking a great game for their first nationally televised game of the year. Packers-Lions week 1.
Yeah, definitely a good matchup. I think for Micah Parsons, because you're an edge rusher, I think that's easier than being like a receiver that has to learn the routes in the playbook. I think it's a little bit easier on the defensive end, especially when you're on the defensive line. So I think maybe not every snap, like you said. I think it's where we're getting in physical shape than really getting used to the team. We'll see, because if they can have Micah Parsons, if they could steal one against the Lions, that could change the division at the end of the year. So very excited for that, and this is definitely the biggest move of all of the preseason. There's been a lot of fun things around the edges, but that was definitely like the blockbuster, and it happened right really before the season starts.
And if you're looking for historical comps here, the Packers acquired Reggie White, and Brett Favre won a Super Bowl at 27. They acquired Charles Woodson, and Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl at 27. Jordan Love's 27, and they just acquired Micah Parsons. So if you're a Packers fan looking for that silver lining, there's a chance that the Packers could be on their way to the Super Bowl if you believe in that whole destiny and everyone wins it when they're 27.
Well, not about being 27, but the Bears did go all in on Khalil Mack a few years ago. Well, I guess more than a few years ago now. Didn't work out for them, but he was still very
Hey,
good.
double doink away from a potential playoff run for Mitch Trubisky and the boys.
They would have lost to the Saints that year. You know it.
Yeah, but then they both would have lost to the Rams, so it wouldn't have mattered. It's just how it is. Such a
So
great
upset about
team.
that no call.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I won't talk about the no call anymore.
Yeah, but Micah Parsons, he's been compared to Reggie White a lot as well with all the first 4 seasons with 12 sacks. He's the first guy to do it since Reggie White, so it's kind of nice that they're now going to be, really linked together. Rest in peace, Reggie White. And before we move on to our NFL preseason reactions, Chris, I do think we do owe a moment of silence to the city of Dallas, who had two superstar players at 26 in their hometowns, and they're now both gone. So, moment of silence for Dallas fans. All right, thank you, because most of them don't live in Dallas anyway. So now we're going to move on to our NFL preseason reactions. We mentioned it's been a very fun preseason so far. There's been a lot of highlights. The games have been fun. It's been healthy, which is nice. So, Chris, we're going to go one positive for both of us, one negative. You can start here. Who's your positive? What have you liked from the preseason? Maybe a player, maybe a team, something like that.
Well, I think every preseason you're looking at the rookies. And I think there have been a few that have stood out. Travion Henderson, I think, is one of them. But I think the biggest rookie that I'm all in on right now, especially in every single fantasy draft, is Emeka Egbuka, the Ohio State receiver. He's always been the number 2 receiver in Ohio State just because they had Marvin Harrison and then Jeremiah Smith come in right after. So he hasn't even been that guy, but he's at the top of every single Ohio State receiving record of whatever. He's near the top or at the top. And he's kind of gone overlooked in Ohio State, but now he's on the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin's hurt. And Mike Evans is probably going to be receiver 1 and Micah Parsons number 2. I think everything out of camp has been that he's been performing amazing. He's NFL ready, all that stuff. So I think week 1, he's going to come in and be one of the best rookies in week 1 just because the situation allows it, and everything that they've said about him looks really good. When Godwin comes back, maybe more questions there, but who knows if Godwin's going to come back fully ready after another injury, this time to his ankle. I think he broke it. So I think there's a wide open possibility there, and I think Emeka Egbuka is the best rookie coming out of this. And the other rookie I would say is Travion Henderson, who started off the preseason games with a touchdown on a kickoff. So 2 really good guys had a really good preseason, and I got them both in my draft yesterday. So obviously I am going all in on these guys.
You Ohio State homer, you. All these Buckeyes you keep shouting out.
You know what? I love a good receiver, and Ohio State tends to have most of them. And
Yeah.
the day that Penn State starts cranking out good receivers again, I'll be happy. I love Jahan Dotson, but Parker Washington, I think, is I know he's a Jag, Adams, who might love him, but I think
Dang
he's
right.
solid, but
Liam
not
Cohen loves
not
him.
Emeka Egbuka.
Liam Cohen loves him. All right, and Liam Cohen left Emeka Egbuka to come coach Parker Washington. Never forget it. My positive, Mecca is great. I love him. But my positive, I'm going to stick with another rookie. I think you mentioned that's kind of who gets to shine. The vets really don't play. So it's kind of looking at the rookies. And I really like what I saw from Jackson Dart, the quarterback for the Giants. They took a risk on him. They traded back into the first round to take him. And he looked really good. He had a phenomenal preseason. He was efficient. He was on time. He also didn't have the pressure of now getting ready for a week 1 game because Russell Wilson had already been announced as a starter. So credit to Brian Dable. I think it loosened him up a little bit. And he just looked really, really good. Him and Jameis really get along. They had the 3 amigos things going with Tommy DeVito, who's now a Patriot, sadly. Now they're just, the dynamic duo, and their guys long lost now up in New England. And it was really fun to watch. I think it created excitement. And I think if the Giants season goes off the rails, like we kind of maybe expected to do at some point, we don't think that team's ready specifically offensively. You're probably going to see Jackson Dart come in and be able to have a chance to showcase himself in this rookie season. So it's been really fun to watch him this preseason. I think Giants fans should be happy because, it's been tough ever since Eli really started his decline. They tried Daniel Jones. It didn't work. They've kind of moved around these last couple years. Now they have Russ probably, hopefully, if you're lucky, you have a really good year and he's a full year stopgap. If things go the way we kind of expect, Jackson Dart's going to get a chance to play this year, and they might have some promise at the quarterback position that they've really been craving.
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart kind of, for the Giants, he gave them a show. He was a very good preseason quarterback. Sometimes these guys are great. Sometimes we'll see when they get the real NFL games, but He showed everything you kind of want him to show. We saw him against Penn State, and he tore them up in that bowl game. And for the Giants, they also had Abdul Carter. So they had a really fun first round, which made them one of the best preseason teams. It's really just questioning, when does Jackson Dart get the time in the actual NFL games? How long does Russ go? And I think it's funny, but I don't think anyone's ever not gotten along with Jameis Winston. He's a little crazy, but I think everyone kind of loves it. So I think that's kind of the perfect combination. And I'm still surprised Jameis is on the team, because it's kind of questioning what's the point of him there. But maybe they could get him just to trade him later if someone needs a quarterback. Or maybe if they don't like Russ and Jackson Dart's not ready, go to Jameis. I don't really know. We've already talked about the Giants quarterback. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I like Jackson Dart. He had a very good preseason.
I think it's maybe a little bit, there's always a chance Russ gets hurt, and we're like, we don't want to throw Jackson Dart out too early, so it's kind of like, now we have Jameis to put in there, because once you put Jackson Dart in, you can't take him out. Like, he's now got to be the guy once you get him, because you don't want the whole in and out with a young quarterback, so I think that's probably why Jameis is still there, but again, after what I've seen, I think if they put Jameis out there, I think a lot of Giants fans are going to be really clamoring for Jackson Dart immediately when the quarterbacks start to struggle with what they've seen. But now we'll go from the, glass half full to the glass half empty part of the show. Chris, there's been a lot of negatives to talk about in the preseason. Where do you want to go here on what's your big negative from the preseason so far?
Well, we already talked about it. I'm just going to pick the obvious one, the Cowboys. They've gotten all the attention for the wrong reasons, and I think this might be the first time where the Cowboys kind of used to always be like the shiny, popular team, and even when they had problems, they were able to salvage together a good enough team that was exciting in a way. I think this is really the first year where people are kind of not even interested in the Cowboys, and I think that matters to them more than anything. I don't think people are really excited about Dak Prescott anymore. Ezekiel Elliott is gone. That's no longer a fun thing. So their running backs are Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. And their only real good, exciting player is CeeDee Lamb. I think George Pickens could be exciting, but he also could pull in Antonio Brown and run off the field at any second. Kind of a head case there. So I just think the way they've lost this offseason is their team got worse, and now they look like they're poorly run, which people kind of knew, but now it's kind of official. Like, the Cowboys are done. There's no chance of this ownership, this regime, getting them to win a Super Bowl. And when that's not a possibility, a lot less excitement, and I think that matters to America's team.
Yeah, it's been a tough year already, and the season hasn't even started for poor old Cowboys fans. So it seems like it's gonna be a long year for them. So I don't want to pile on anymore for them. I'm starting to feel bad because a lot of this isn't their fault too. Now, granted, they are loud. They are loud. So they really like to tell you when they're doing good. So it's kind of double-edged sword there with those Cowboys fans. But for me, I had written down the Bengals defense, and now I want to talk about them because they were really, really bad. Al Golden. Now, granted, they did sign Trey Hendrickson, so maybe he's going to change some things for them. They got the rookie finally figured out. So, again, we said they didn't have to be that much better for them to really, become a truly better team. They just got to be a little bit better. Not historically one of the worst defenses in the history of the NFL. So I guess I won't beat up on the Bengals, and I'll stick, and I guess we'll join ESPN and social media and everybody that wants to talk about the most hyped third-string quarterback in the history of the NFL. This guy, Shedeur Sanders. Now, let me tell you, absolutely great first game. Phenomenal, playing against the Panthers. He was great. I'm not going to lie to you. He was good. He played really well. There still were some things, he played like he was in college. He looked like he was in college. But then the sad part is he didn't end. He played the second half against the Rams, and that might be the worst half of football by a quarterback in a preseason game we've seen. It was bad. 11 dropbacks, negative 27 net yards if you count the sacks. He had a 24-yard sack where he was just running backwards for some reason. All he had to do was step up in the pocket and deliver to his check down, and he decided to run backwards instead. Who knows? But he did not play well. He's really, really struggled. But the thing, it isn't even Shedeur. I don't have a problem with Shedeur Sanders. I have a problem with people who like Shedeur Sanders because they don't shut up about him. And they continue to talk about how Kevin Stefanski and the NFL have this whole plot to sabotage Shedeur Sanders because Deion Sanders was an NFL Hall of Famer. because he's one of the greatest football players of all time, so they're gonna sabotage his son. That makes no sense. So and like Kevin Stefanski's sabotaging him. I mean, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's siding with Dylan Gabriel and trying to play Dylan Gabriel, even though Dylan Gabriel was a 3rd-round pick and Shedeur was a 5th-round pick. So it'd actually make more sense to kind of value the guy you drafted higher because they valued him before the draft higher. But who knows? Joe Flacco's the starter there, and people are so upset that Shedeur Sanders is the emergency 3rd-string quarterback. He's not going to dress unless someone gets hurt. It's the end of the world for, Shedeur Sanders fans. And I just try to remind them that, like, people realize, like, everyone's trying to say, man, he's going to be Tom Brady when he finally gets out there. That 5th-round pick that no one believed in. He's going to take off. Well, Tom Brady didn't play his rookie year, guys. Like, Shedeur Sanders is a project. Let Shedeur Sanders develop. But his fans refuse to think he's the greatest quarterback of all time, think he's going to be this elite quarterback when he gets in the chance. They complain that he was drafted by Cleveland, and he's like, oh, they put him in quarterback hell. Well, the other team that was going to draft him was the Philadelphia Eagles. Newsflash, Shedeur Sanders fans, he wasn't playing if he went to Philadelphia, by the way. The Philadelphia actually ended up cutting Kyle McCord, who they drafted, and I don't see people clamoring for Kyle McCord that he didn't get a fair shot being a 6th-round pick in Philadelphia. So it's just, again, this isn't Shedeur. It was a bad weekend for the Sanders family for the last preseason week because Shiloh socked a guy from the Bills and got thrown out of the game, and he got cut. It's just, there's something about him. He's rubbed me wrong since he was at Colorado, and again, it's really not him. It's more his fans, but I don't know. My blood boils when I talk about this man, Chris.
Adam, this is why I love you. You're my buddy. And guess what? Before the show, we're talking about our losses, and you're like, I'm like, I could do Shedeur, and you're like, I could do it. He's like, honestly, like, no, we'll not pick them. Everyone talks about it. We don't need to talk about them. On the spot of the podcast, you change it, and I immediately know that you couldn't resist, which I knew was going to happen, and that's why it's awesome. I honestly just could not stop just, like, laughing at what you're saying, but I think just with Shedeur Sanders, it's not about the draft pick, it's about the name. And I think people wanted to see it. He had a good first preseason, like you said, a good first preseason game. The problem that I just think was weird with the whole Browns, why they're a loser in general, is now they have 2 rookie quarterbacks. Neither one of them I really think are going to be that great for them. And their other option is Joe Flacco. And something that didn't make sense, I know you're not a Shedeur fan, so you might not feel the same, but they're in a game, down by a score, and it's a 2-minute drill, basically, at the end of the game. And you should put Shedeur Sanders, who was just in the game, keep him in, let him get practice in the 2-minute drill. Instead, they put in Tyler Huntley, who's an older veteran QB, who they cut right after the game. So they have no intention of developing or having this guy on their roster, yet they put him out there for the 2-minute drill. Whereas Shedeur Sanders, who still is a rookie, who has a chance to start for you and be your future, they don't give him that experience, which doesn't make any sense, and that's probably why the Browns suck every year. So maybe if they were made more sense and made the smart moves of, hey, let's just give him the experience. No, instead they give Tyler Huntley the experience and cut him the next day. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Kind of think that's why they're always terrible, and the only year they weren't terrible is because they got Joe Flacco, which was lightning in a bottle, and probably not even on purpose on their part.
Now hold on. Kevin Stefanski has 2 11+1 seasons, and he's a multiple-time coach of the year. So they're not always terrible. Okay, he has a playoff win. Remember,
they traded everything.
Yeah.
They traded everything for Deshaun Watson and gave him the most guaranteed money that they could at the time, which shows that they're not run well. I mean, I think at the time it was Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback, but you should have given that money, and he still had the problems. They make stupid decisions. They do all the time. They're always the one that gets the player. They're the one that gets Johnny Manziel and Shedeur Sanders.
Hey, but imagine how good your head coach is if they can give up all that and he still finds a way to get you to the playoffs at 11+ wins. That's why no, their ownership's horrible. I'll agree with you there, and the way they're run is not good. But Kevin Stefanski, just as a football coach, I think is pretty good. He's been dealt a really bad hand. The one knock you can give on him is a lot of people say he was part of the reason they pushed Baker out. Now I could see that as a big problem for them, but nah, it's just like Shedeur, it's we're like times time's a circle. We're back. Like, Shadur is the new Tim Tebow. Like, that's where we're at. Like, really good college quarterback who a lot of NFL teams question, and even to the point that Skip Bayless is one of the guys defending Shadur Sanders, just like he was with my boy Tebow. And now Tebow got a chance, and they won games, and then, my God, the Broncos really screwed him over by saying, but we can get Peyton Manning. And they went and got Peyton Manning. So, yeah, I think it's just
The
it's where we're
Broncos
at.
did nothing wrong, but credit to Tim Tebow. He actually won playoff games, okay?
Mhm.
Shooter
Yeah.
Sanders, you can't compare to that yet. Okay, Tim Tebow, I also think was a fun experience at the time.
Yeah.
And I think he was different. And
Yeah.
I think now, like, if he would came out today, he would just be Taysom Hill. I just don't think at the time that was really something that
Yeah.
people were doing.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. But I think he wanted to be a quarterback too. And also with Shadur, all the people that are saying the Browns are screwing him over, if other NFL teams thought he could be good and wanted him, they can trade for him. I don't think the Browns are asking for a lot. Like, I don't think they are asking for a hype. They're probably asked for, what, a 6th-round pick probably for him? That's what they got for Kenny Pickett, so it's probably similar. So it's like, what? Like, if teams wanted him, they can get him.
They gave away Kenny Pickett because they think Shooter Sanders could be better than him someday, which is not saying a lot, but it means that he has some hope.
Yeah, or the fact that the Raiders asked for Kenny Pickett and not Shadur Sanders. They're like, okay, okay, fine by me. Because
I don't think that Tom Brady
wanted a
wants
vet
to deal with that.
No, Pete wanted a vet. Pete wanted a vet. That's what he said. He said and plus Aiden O'Connell I think is gonna come back. I don't think it was season ending for his injury, so I think eventually Aiden O'Connell gets back. I don't know.
I don't think Aiden O'Connell's making anyone feel good about themselves right now.
No, they're not. Backup quarterback. Geno's there, baby. We got Geno Smith and Ashton Genty and Amari Cooper's back, which I thought was hilarious. We didn't even talk about this. We were going way off the rails. But Amari Cooper's back, and they put a picture of him in the Bills jersey as we signed Amari Cooper. I'm like, what? No one had a picture of Amari Cooper in a Raiders jersey? Like, what? Like, he played? Oh. NFL teams, man. All right, well,
Jacoby Myers stays there, kind of like him.
Yeah. No, he's not going to. He's asked. I don't think he's staying there. I think a team back. I think he could actually end up in a good situation. Like, he feels like one of those guys going to end up in like Buffalo or Kansas City or maybe even Baltimore, like one of those good teams. And he won't end up in Kansas City because I can't imagine the Raiders trade him within the division. But there's always a chance he could end up on a good team. So
listen, Jacoby Myers is the best receiver that's always available. Just saying, we can move on. You know I love Jacoby Myers, my favorite guy.
Yeah, you do like Jacoby Myers. All right, so we're going to go real quick. We've talked a lot about the Cowboys. So this is more going to be, Eagles talk most likely. But as we said, it's week 1 of the NFL season. The Eagles and Cowboys will kick us off on Thursday night in the link. They're going to be dropping their banner, celebrating their Super Bowl championship. The Eagles have a lot of new faces defensively. They lost a lot of guys from their defense. They're really bringing in a lot of young guys to replace those players, which I think they have a lot of praise on. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, I think, is a lot of people that the Eagles really like. That's why they're willing to get rid of guys like Darius Slay and some of the veteran corners they had. So where do you see this game going? And the Eagles in general, they have a tough start. They got the Cowboys at home. Then they travel to Arrowhead to face Kansas City next week. So where do you see this game going between the Eagles and the Cowboys? And like I said, we'll start with the Eagles side. We'll touch on the Cowboys and then make our official picks.
Yeah, I think this is just going to be worst case scenario for Dallas because they just traded Micah. It's not like they traded Micah at the beginning of preseason. They just got rid of him. And when they go to face the Eagles offensive line and they can't touch Jalen Hurts or Saquon, people are going to be even more angry at what the Cowboys did. Not that they were probably going to win anyways, but it's going to really look bad. I think the Eagles are going to come out, just come out there right away, be aggressive, score touchdowns, control the game, and the Cowboys aren't going to get to do much. They might have, maybe if there's a weakness, it could be that the Eagles secondary lost some pieces. Maybe the Cowboys score some, but I think it's going to be a normal reigning champs come in, start the season with a win. The Cowboys fans freak out, and then we're off with the season and everyone's overreacting. And that's the best part of the season for me, is the beginning, when you don't know what's legit and what's just actually a trend that you're going to see. But I think the Eagles really, really good. Obviously, they're going to come out, beat Dallas. And I think it's important to win week 1 too, just to not have a Super Bowl hangover. I know it more applies to the team that lost, but still, you want to have that team winning games early on, not to feel like, oh, we just won, and then maybe fall behind and the Commanders could win the division. So I think it's good to come out week 1, especially when you have a tough week 2 matchup.
Yeah, I think it's, really good. I think Vic Fangio and Nick Sirianni should be happy by playing the Cowboys week one. Not that it's an easy game, even with Micah leaving. I think it's that the Cowboys are a team that is going to test your weaknesses early and some of the question marks you have that you can learn from. So, you're going to learn real quick. You're playing CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Quinyon Mitchell now being the true number one corner. Cooper DeJean's going to be on the outside. That secondary, that young secondary they're trying to work out is really going to get an opportunity to show themselves against a really good team. And if they struggle, then Howie Roseman could sit there and say, okay, well, now maybe we got to make some moves at the deadline, maybe try to get a veteran in here that can help this team out right away, and they could do that. So I think it's really nice to play that game. And then you obviously get Mahomes and the Chiefs, who are going to be able to test that secondary as well. On the Cowboys side, I mean, if you mentioned when it's going to be tough if they can't touch Jalen Hurts, but what is Jerry going to do if Saquon starts running all over him? And it's like, well, we had to stop the run. Well, you ain't stopping the run anyway. That's going to be the problem that Jerry, I think, might have to deal with is, the best run defenses in the league weren't stopping Saquon Barkley. And, he's going to want to come out and have another great season. So he's going to come out firing guns a-blazing. New coordinator on the offensive side for the Eagles. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, it's going to be tough. It's a tough chore with everything that hung over this team all off season with the Cowboys. And now going in, you just traded Micah. Everyone is losing their mind on every TV show. They're still doing it. And they're going to do it all the way up to kickoff of the game. And there's so much pressure on poor Brian Schottenheimer, who's coaching his first career game as a head coach, has really been dealt a very bad hand for his first game and how it's going to be handled out. Same with Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator, who probably had his whole scheme planned out with Micah in it, now to completely erase and rechange everything. No, it's going to be tough and it's going to be interesting, but you picked the Eagles. You have a score prediction? You want to throw a score out or just...
Give me a 28-17 Eagles win. I think my dream would be Saquon runs for a crazy amount of yards and they can't stop the run, like you said. That would just be so funny. I am worried if the Cowboys win this game and they stop Saquon, that's going to be the worst thing because we're just have to hear Jerry talk about it.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things where they could do. It's going to be weird, Jerry's really hoping for, and he's put a lot of pressure on his coach and things like that. But I'm with you. I think the Eagles are going to win. I think it's going to be 34-20. I think the Cowboys are going to have a really tough time stopping Philadelphia. I think that's going to be a big problem. Like I said, the one thing where if you look for the Cowboys, they can't run the ball, so it's really going to be through the air. Test that secondary. If CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens can get going, we'll see what can happen. But I don't see much for Dallas, and we're clowning on them a lot. But I do feel bad for the guys in the locker room. Your CD was really upset. Trayvon Diggs and Micah were best friends. So you feel bad for those guys that are like, man, we had to deal with all this. Now one of our good friends and a good teammate's leaving. I know Jerry's trying to throw out this weird, he was not a good guy and well liked in the locker room, which you never heard at all until now that he's gone. So we'll see if that's maybe true or not. I don't know. But
the guys upset that he was gone.
Yeah, the guys were rallying around him all camp. So it's kind of weird. So I don't know, but yeah, I think the Eagles are going to win. I think they'll move to 1-0, and I think it'll create a great Week 2 matchup against Kansas City. In Arrowhead, that Super Bowl rematch is going to be a lot of fun. Chris, we're winding down here. Any preseason reactions we didn't talk about that you want to bring up here before we get out of here?
I'm probably the most curious about the Bears from this preseason because Caleb Williams has looked really bad in some videos and reports, but in the preseason, they didn't play week 1 because they wanted to get him used to Ben Johnson's offensive coordinating, or now just his coaching system. Then they looked really good at the end of preseason, but there's a lot of bad noise from preseason. I think the Bears are going to have a lot of change. I think it's going to take some getting used to. They're the team that all preseason I haven't really been able to figure out because their preseason looked pretty good in the games, but everything else kind of been a little murky. That's the only other team I was wanting to talk about, but I didn't know if I should even put them as a positive or a negative. I don't even know.
Yeah, I think the one thing with the Bears, if you're a Bears fan, you're hoping that Ben Johnson went out this where we're going to throw everything at Caleb in this offense right away, and then by the season we'll know what we can do, what we can't do, and things like that. So it's really just we're setting him up to fail a little bit in practice, so then once we get to the actual games, maybe he's ready. But that's your hope if you're a Bears fan. Obviously, Caleb in year 2, there's a lot of hope for him. Obviously, I'm happy. Travis Hunter had a baby. shout out Travis. We're getting ready. The unicorns arrived. Week 1 coming up. We'll see how that works. And I think that's interesting. We didn't see a lot of it in the preseason because he was battling some injuries and things like that. But it's going to be interesting to see how Jacksonville handles him going both ways. And as a Jags fan, I think it's going to be kind of fun to watch. So that's just something, like I said, in the preseason, we didn't see a lot of it. They're still all in on having Travis play both ways. So we'll see. But the new father, who's also a unicorn, who's also a great husband, and also about to be the greatest football player, my part, of all time, as, getting ready to play both ways for the first time. So I'm excited for that. But might be a little hyperbolic there from me, Chris.
Yeah, I think when you call him a great husband and father when you don't actually know anything about him as a husband or father might be a little much. But you know what, Adam? I think what the main thing is I'm so used to it by you that like it doesn't even faze me anymore. Where I just like nod, I'm like, yeah, and then I would just think like if a normal person heard this, they'd be like, what is that kid saying?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are actually really surprised because they can't get the complete 180 I did because I was notorious. I was not a fan of Colorado with Deion. Now, of course, I got Travis. Like, I was all in, like, oh, Travis shouldn't win the Heisman last year. But now it's like, dang right, he should have won the Heisman, baby. That's my guy right there. So it's been a complete 180 for me. But, it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be football's back. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be back with you on Friday. We'll be recording right after the Thursday night games. We'll have a full recap of the Eagles and Cowboys, and then we'll have our official predictions for every game throughout the weekend slate, and getting you ready for football season as it's back. Make sure you subscribe to all our socials. Check out all our previous episodes. We have all our division previews, our Super Bowl predictions. We have a fantasy football episode. If you still haven't done your fantasy football drafts yet, better get them in quick. Season starting on Thursday. And we have a college football episode as we just wrapped up the first weekend of college football. So that's going to do it here for this episode of the Pain and Panic podcast. Again, join us on Friday for our Thursday night football recap and getting you ready for the first weekend of the NFL season. For my partner, Chris Reynolds, I'm Adam Sheets. Thank you for listening.